Good morning, everyone. I'm Cindy Silva, and I have the honor this year to serve as the mayor of the City of Walnut Creek. And on behalf of the entire City Council, I want to welcome you to our 2023 Memorial Day observance. For Americans, Memorial Day should be the most important and solemn of our national holidays. It is the day we remember and we honor those who have made the ultimate sacrifice by laying down their lives for our country. To begin, I would ask you to please stand for the presentation of colors, for the singing of the national anthem, and for the Pledge of Allegiance. Color Guard, please present the colors.
And while we're at it, let's remember those who have given their lives and repeat with me the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Host. Coast. In.
Thank you. Please be seated. The invocation this morning will be delivered by Reverend Mark Burnham, who is the pastor of Grace Presbyterian Church in Walnut Creek.
Let us pray. Lord, who created us, who sustains us, who calls us to live in peace, hear our prayer this day. Hear our prayer for all who have died, whose hearts and hopes are in you alone. Hear our prayer for those who put the welfare of others ahead of their own, and grant us hearts as generous as theirs. Hear our prayer for those who gave their lives in the service of others, and accept the gift of their sacrifice. Help us to shape and to make a world where we will lay down the arms of war, turn our swords into plowshares for a harvest of justice and peace. Comfort those who grieve the loss of their loved ones. Let your healing be the hope in their hearts. Hear our prayer this day, and in your mercy answer us. In the name of all that is holy. Amen.
Reverend Burnham, thank you for your words this morning and for your work in our community. It's truly appreciated. I would also like to thank the Walnut Creek Police Department Color Guard for their participation today. The Walnut Creek Concert Band, under the leadership of their new director, Matthew Sadowski. But I also noticed that their former longtime director is in the audience today as well, so I do want to acknowledge Harvey Benstein. Thank you to Mayor Pro Tem Luella Haskew for leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and I would like to introduce the other members of the City Council who are with us today, Matt Francois and Kevin Welk. Unfortunately, Cindy Darling is in Hawaii, and she's a lot warmer than we are. Also with us today is County Supervisor Candace Anderson, who represents District 2, which includes parts of Walnut Creek. Finally, please welcome the following representatives of other elected officials, and please hold your applause. Representing State Senator Steve Glazer is Don Tatson, who's a former member of the Lafayette City Council and a former mayor of Lafayette, and is also a member of the concert band. Representing Assembly Member Rebecca Bauer-Cahan is Marilyn Cachola Lucy, and here for County Supervisor Ken Carlson is Leah Bristol. I would also like to acknowledge and thank all of the veterans who are with us here today. Could you please rise so that we can honor you? Thank you for your service to our country. For Americans, Memorial Day is the most solemn of our national holidays as we honor those who gave their lives in service to our country. Starting with the 8.5-year-long American Revolutionary War, the United States has been involved in 27 armed conflicts over its history. The most deadly, of course, was the Civil War. Between April 12, 1861, when the first shot was fired at Fort Sumter in Charleston, South Carolina, and April 1865, when Union and Confederate troops laid down their arms at Appomattox Courthouse in Virginia, our nation lost some 625,000 in combat and other deaths. More American losses than those from all other wars that we've been involved in combined, and 100 times more than the number who died in the American Revolution. The casualty figures from the Civil War were so large, nearly every American was directly touched by the conflict. Over time, the families and friends of the soldiers who were lost during the Civil War began to honor the sacrifices of the fallen by spending one day each year decorating their graves. And after a few years, entire communities began to come together on these remembrance or decoration days. What we now call Memorial Day was first observed on May 30th, 1868, when flowers were officially placed on the graves of more than 20,000 Union and Confederate soldiers who were buried in Washington, D.C. at Arlington National Cemetery. After that, and for the next 50 years, Memorial Day was observed every year on May 30th to honor those who died during the Civil War. After World War I, where more than 100,000 American military lost their lives, the holiday was changed to honor Americans who died fighting in any war. Today marks Walnut Creek's 35th Memorial Day observance. It is a day for us to come together and to pay our respects to all who have made the ultimate sacrifice on our behalf. In particular, today is a chance for us to honor the Walnut Creek men who lost their lives while serving our country. The 32 men who our community lost during World War II, the 11 we lost during Korea, the 17 lost in Vietnam, and the 2 lost most recently in Iraq and Afghanistan. Memorial Day is our opportunity as a community to remember and to reflect. It is an opportunity for us to stand with the families of those we've lost, and it is an opportunity for us to join with our war veterans as they pay tribute to their fallen comrades and friends. Our keynote speaker this morning is eminently qualified to help us reflect on the meaning of Memorial Day. Patrick Leary spent 14 years in service as a helicopter pilot, first in the U.S. Army and then subsequently in the National Guard. His service took place at home and abroad, notably in Europe and Vietnam. In recent years, Mr. Leary has been involved in a wide number of veteran service organizations, and he is frequently called upon to speak about the importance of men and women becoming part of our military community. We are honored to have him today as our speaker. Please join me in welcoming Patrick Leary.
Thank you, Mayor Silva, for that kind introduction, and thank you for all our distinguished guests today. I'd like to thank all the families and friends of the veterans we are here to honor today, especially the Gold Star families. I'm honored to speak to you today representing the veterans of Diablo Valley. July 27th marks the 70th anniversary of the end of the Korean War. 5.7 million men and women served during that conflict. Today, fewer than 1 million are left alive. The youngest would be 87, 88 years old. 36,516 were killed in action. Today, Memorial Day, we stop to remember all those veterans of all conflicts who are no longer with us. Well, who were these veterans? Well, the stereotype of a veteran is a guy who wears an interesting hat, bald. If he's lucky, he's gray. Okay. Wears reading glasses, perhaps a bit overweight, walks with a limp. An old guy with a cold head. But they were also the local banker, the guy in the hardware store, the plumber, the local contractor, perhaps your lawyer, accountant, or mailman. After their service, they became part of that dream for which they served. Memorial Day is a celebration of the lives of those comrades who have passed, a time for thanks. Thanks to the banker, the guy in the hardware store, the plumber, the contractor. Thanks to all those who dedicated part of their lives to protecting the dream for all of us. Veterans are a unique group. There aren't that many of us. World War I, 5% of us served. World War II, 12%. Korea, 3%. Vietnam, 4%. Iraq, Afghanistan, less than 2%. Today, less than 1% of us serve. Not really a large number of our citizens are keeping us safe and secure. There's one more special attribute that makes these small percentages special. Look at the pictures in the history book. Look closely at the men and women in uniform. You'll note these servicemen and women are young, very young. That's true of all conflicts. We depend upon the young for our safety and security. When I was a 21-year-old pilot in Vietnam, we had a 26-year-old maintenance officer. We called him Pappy. Each branch of service has a creed. In the business world, we might call it a mission statement. The creed for each branch of service includes the following. I'm an American soldier, airman, Marine, sailor. I represent all who have gone before me. I serve the people of the United States with loyalty, integrity, respect, honor, courage. I will place service before self. The mission will always come first. I will never leave a fallen comrade. I will never accept defeat. I am a professional. I am the guardian of freedom in the American way of life. That is pretty profound for a young person fresh out of high school, isn't it? What an awesome responsibility we ask of them. Why do they volunteer for this honored duty? There's many reasons. Some do it for employment, for a job. Some for education and training. Some for the spirit of adventure. Some for family tradition. And some for patriotism. Truthfully, in my experience, very few of us serve at first for patriotism. However, patriotism rapidly works its way to the top. Once you become a member of the armed forces, you're exposed to a disciplined system of life, a community you've never experienced before. You learn the concept of selflessness and teamwork. You work with, no, you defend and protect comrades from all races, creeds, income levels, and social backgrounds. You learn what a truly wonderful melting pot we are. You travel to the corners of the U.S., and you realize what a magnificent country we have. You see the beauty of our country, the wonderful generosity of the people we meet and serve. You travel to the corners of the earth. You realize how blessed we are to have the physical and social environment, and yes, even the political system that we have. It's not to be found anywhere else in the world. Once this realization sets in, we truly understand what a special gift has been passed down through the generations of veterans. We realize that it is now our sacred duty to continue this tradition, to pass this gift we have to the future generations, this gift we call America. When the national anthem is played, you'll see tears in the eyes of veterans. We all cry. These are tears of many emotions. One of them certainly is for the pride that we have contributed. So I offer to you that as veterans, we serve to defend and protect everything this wonderful country has to offer. Our families have shared in this service to their unwavering support. In return, I believe it is the responsibility of each and every one of us to respect, honor, and build upon that for which they served. I'd like to leave you with the following thought. It's a quote I found, engraved on a park bench dedicated to John W. Gardner, overlooking the National Cemetery at the Presidio in San Francisco. Freedom and responsibility, liberty and duty. That's the deal. Thank you.
Mr. Leary, thank you for sharing with us your thoughts about the meaning of Memorial Day. I also want to thank you for recognizing some of the veterans here today, particularly on the occasion of the 70th anniversary of the end of the Korean conflict. As you said, of the 5.7 million who served during the 3 years of that war, more than 36,000 were lost. This included 11 men from Walnut Creek. Our first loss occurred on September 3rd, 1950. U.S. Army Lieutenant Paul Kremser was a mortar platoon leader in the 9th Infantry Regiment, 2nd Infantry Division. In early September, he was occupying a hill near the Nakong River when his position was surrounded by superior enemy forces. Lieutenant Kremser was able to hold the enemy off for 4 days while inflicting severe damage. However, on September 3rd, he was killed by an enemy mortar burst. Just 3 weeks later, on September 26, 1950, Walnut Creek lost U.S. Marine Sergeant Glenn Gregg Jr., who was serving with the 1st Marine Division. Marine Sergeant Gregg was killed under heavy fire and was posthumously awarded the Bronze Star for heroism. U.S. Army Corporal Robert Gilardi was serving in the 187th Airborne Infantry Regiment combat team when he was seriously wounded by the enemy in North Korea. He died of those wounds on November 10, 1950. At the end of 1950, Army Private Gene Evans, a member of the 31st Infantry Regiment, 7th Infantry Division, fighting in North Korea, was listed as missing in action and was presumed dead on or about December 2nd. In 1951, on March 21st, Army Private Russell Moorcroft was serving in the 57th Field Artillery Battalion, 7th Infantry Division, when he was killed in action in South Korea. Just a couple of weeks later, on April 2nd, U.S. Army Private Leslie D. Opp, a member of the 372nd Decontamination Company, died from injuries at Camp Opima in Japan. He received the National Defense Service Medal. Army Private Victor Beauchamp Jr. was a member of the 8th Cavalry Regiment, 1st Cavalry Division, when he was killed on October 4, 1951, in the Chorwon area of North Korea. He had recently been part of a 20-man patrol that was scouting in enemy territory. Navy Lieutenant Louis Seymour Jr. was among 8 California naval airmen killed on January 14, 1952, in the crash of a privateer patrol bomber. He and the other crew members were active reservists out of the Alameda Naval Air Station, who were based at the air station in Atsugi, Japan. The aircraft hit a hill near the end of the runway and crashed after an engine emergency. Army Captain Danny Green, who was also a veteran of World War II, was a member of the Ordnance Corps and was among those killed on July 27, 1952, in the crash of an Army plane in Nebraska. He was returning from several months of Army training in Virginia. On that same day, Army Private John Hansard was killed near Sinton-ni, North Korea. Hansard was serving in the 9th Infantry Regiment, 2nd Infantry Division. Lastly, Army Corporal Thomas Lloyd was serving with the 555th Field Artillery Battalion when he went missing in action in North Korea on July 14, 1953, just 2 weeks before the end of the conflict. He was subsequently declared dead. Although these losses occurred more than 70 years ago, we know the loss of each of these 11 young men was deeply felt in our small community. At the time, Walnut Creek had just about 1,000 residents. We also know that dozens of other Walnut Creek young men served in Korea and were able to return home. If you served in Korea and you're able to, would you please stand so that we can thank you for your service some 70 years ago. Of course, we also want to honor and thank all of the veterans who are here today, and we'll do that with our traditional playing of the Armed Forces Salute. As the band plays its tribute to each of the military branches, we invite our veterans to stand if you can, wave, clap, and sing along. And now the band.
United States Army. Coast Guard. The Marines. The Air Force. The Navy. And all members of our National Armed Forces.
As we conclude our time together, hear now our blessing. Let us go forth into the world in peace and dedicated to your service, O God, inspired by the sacrifice of those who made the ultimate sacrifice. Give light to guide us on our way. Grant us courage to uphold our convictions and your blessing to unite us in service. And may God's blessing be upon us and remain with us always. Amen.
Before we adjourn to Veterans Memorial Plaza, I would like to again thank today's speaker, Patrick Leary, Reverend Berman, the Walnut Creek Concert Band and Director Matthew Sadowski, the Walnut Creek Police Department Color Guard, Boy Scout Troop 810, along with Scouts from Troop 832 and Troop 370. And finally, our city staff, in particular our Walnut Creek TV staff under the leadership of Matt Bolender and our communications director, Betsy Burkhardt. And of course, I want to thank all of you at 9 a.m. when it was 40 degrees. We thought there would be maybe 2 people here, and it looks like it's about 300, so thank you for coming out today and helping us honor those we've lost. We will now begin the transition to Veterans Memorial Plaza, where we will complete this Memorial Day observance. As the band plays a short recessional, the color guard will lead all of us across the street to the Memorial Plaza. Once we are gathered at the plaza, the color guard will place the wreath at the base of the American flag, after which we will pay tribute to the 62 Walnut Creek men who gave their lives in service to our country. Then after a moment of silence, the color guard will lower the flag to half-staff. Now please stand for the recessional, and color guard, please lead us to the Memorial Plaza.
Go as high as you can on your pod. There's tabs there.
Since 1941 and the start of World War II, 62 Walnut Creek men have lost their lives in service to our country. If you would please bow your heads as we take a moment to remember them.